Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast. Katie Mox and Will Brinson here, joined by our Pick Show squad, Alex Selelnick, aka Propstarz, and Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Both guys coming to you from Sportsline. This episode of Pick Six is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. The last episode, the Super Friends, went through week 10. Right?
Week 9.
It was 9? Oh, wow. We're on week 10 this week. Week 9 of the NFL season. Breach, Wilson, and Brinson discussed Miami's primetime issues and how CJ Stroud played the most impressive game by a rookie quarterback of all time. You can watch that episode on our YouTube channel or the audio version, wherever that you get your podcasts. And while you're there, feel free to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss another episode. It's now time to look at early leans for week 10 of the NFL. I can't believe we're already in week 10, by the way. So week 9, that was halfway.
We're not far enough along. We need to be further. It needs to be like week 16.
Okay, you know what? Week 16
I'm
comes
I'm a mid-season grumpster. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Like I get grouchy halfway through the season. Like today, like the time change, right?
Okay.
I was recording a podcast at 2 a.m. my time. Harry was up editing it at 3 a.m. Like it's grumpster season, okay? And it's too hot outside. It's like global warming's a problem. The NFL's not moving along fast enough. I mean, it's got all kinds of issues here.
How did NC State do this weekend, Brinson?
We're actually good. We're back in it. We got 1.1% chance of making the ACC championship.
All right,
but we're a 2.5-point favorite in Winston-Salem at Wake Forest on Saturday, coming off 2 huge wins over Clemson and who the hell did we beat this week? Miami.
The U.
Look, you want to talk about anticipation? We'll do our anticipation play segment in a minute.
Yes, you want to do
Actually, this isn't even an anticipation play. This is if you want some free money, you should hammer that Wake Forest money line.
Okay.
We suck in Winston-Salem.
What do you think of that, Emory? You got a good read on college?
Hey, I was shocked that they beat Miami last weekend. Not because they can't beat Miami, because Miami just decides when they want to show up. But they really dominated Miami. Miami really has nothing going on. So, and to his point, this is the type of game they'll come back and lose against Wake Forest, who they should be.
Well, Wake's not even good,
right?
But it's on the road. At Winston-Salem is a house of horrors for NC State. I would recommend getting some Wake Forest in your betting portfolio for college football this coming weekend.
All right. Good. That's enough college for the day, but at least I got you a little excited. Okay.
Well, we're talking about games that are like a week away. Why not talk about games that are 6 days away?
Let's get back to the NFL though, and let's recap some of the week 9 betting trends. Favorites 7-5 against the spread. Home teams also 7-5 against the spread. Home favorites 6-4, and the unders reigned supreme again, 9-3. Look, Emory, we don't need to talk about home field advantage, right? We don't need to talk about the dominance of the home field, do we?
I mean, if y'all want to, I mean, it was good to see Allegiant Stadium get a win yesterday.
Yes. What Emory, just real quick though, what did you think about that game and the Raiders all smoking cigars after being the Giants, which, how exciting is that really?
They stomped the Giants.
It shows you how much they didn't too much care about or care for Josh McDaniel. When you have that level of release and relief after a mid-season game, that says a lot, man, because usually save those for winning division championship, maybe a playoff game, maybe you clinch a playoff spot.
Look like they won the World Series in the Super Bowl or something.
Week 8 matchup, week 9 matchup. So it tells you what they thought about the prior head coach. And I know people don't believe momentum isn't real, but there is something to be said for this to happen back-to-back times for the Raiders, firing the coach mid-season. A guy steps in as an interim. The team rallies around the guy, and they come out with a dominating performance. So it's something to be said about the human element of, man, I don't really want to play for this guy. I'd rather run through a brick wall for this guy. So it was cool to see, but it was a little bit much considering it was just week 9, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, but I mean, Josh McDaniels got crapped on all day. Like if it hadn't been for the Chiefs and the Dolphins playing on Sunday morning, there would have been a lot more attention paid to every single network having some report about how Josh McDaniels was just got destroyed in this Thursday meeting. That there's like a airing of the grievances, and then. You everybody thrashed him, and then Antonio Pierce was like, "There's you think he brought up the 2007 Giants for beating the Patriots on accident? Hell no, he knew what he was doing. I don't think he liked McDaniels, and clearly, I think this Raiders team is really fascinating moving forward. I would just be careful about. I would be careful about fading them just because they've been bad. You look at their schedule: Jets at home on Sunday Night Football, I believe, and then at the Dolphins. Home against the Chiefs. They've got some very winnable games down the stretch. I don't know if they're going to become a playoff team per se, but I think that you will see a much more the way the way Josh Jacobs ran, the way Devontae Adams just sort of played, Aiden O'Connell out there slinging it, the defense flying around. I think it'll be a very interesting team to watch down the stretch. On the unders thing, I would caution anyone from reading too much into that. You had, I think again, it was probably a lot matchup based. Like the Rams are starting Brett Rippon. They score 3 points. Packers weren't very good, right? Bears have a backup quarterback. They score 17. Panthers and the Colts, not a ton of points.
Quarterbacks.
Cardinals, 0.
1970.
There's just a lot. Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's just a lot of games where like the Giants had Tommy DeVito in there. They score 6 points. Just a lot of games where the under hit in large part because of just sort of the quality of play at the quarterback position, I think.
Yeah. Anything that you guys learned from this weekend? Like for one thing, Seattle. What happened to the Seahawks? I mean, only three. I think
it was more Baltimore than Seattle.
Just stopping them.
I mean, they did the same thing to the Lions. I think Lamar kills NFC teams, and the Ravens defense is just the Ravens getting Mike McDonald.
What is the stat for Lamar and the NFC teams?
18-1.
18-1.
Yeah. Undefeated at home. And the Ravens now the only team or the third team in the NFL, or since the merger, to beat 3 straight teams that had a winning record by 24 plus points.
Wow.
The Bills actually did it this year too.
Emory, are the Ravens the best team in the NFL right now?
That's tough. I can't say if they are or not. I can't say any team is the best team in the NFL right now because I feel like everybody's kind of, the same in terms of what we would probably consider the 4 best teams on each side of the conference. AFC, NFC. They're probably all about the same. It's like different, leans to this team may be best this week. This team may be best that week. Right. Usually you have a clear cut. Oh, this team is the best. But right now I feel like everybody can, at least 8 teams can stake that claim for being the best in the league right now.
I want to point out that both Alex and I noted, and I think Emory was on this too, the same general principle. I talk so much I can't remember like who said what at what point. But several weeks ago, it was like bet Lamar Jackson now to win MVP. He's going to be the favorite, and he is currently tied with Patrick Mahomes. At least what I see, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts at 3.5 to 1 to win the MVP. So hopefully you got some Lamar at 11 to 1, 8 to 1, 9 to 1. He is now the favorite to win MVP. Exactly several weeks after we predicted it would happen in several weeks.
Got to tune into the Pick Six podcast. Props, anything that you learned in week 9 in terms of props? Were there players that didn't perform the way you thought they were going to, or any big standouts?
Nothing in particular. Obviously, some great individual performances. As you mentioned, Katie, just watching CJ Stroud just methodically pick apart a pretty good Tampa Bay defense was extremely impressive. Noah Brown sighting of all players, making a big impact in the 3 wide receiver sets for Houston. So, I've just been so impressed by CJ Stroud and that offense, and they just have not had a running game all year. It's not like we're talking about a super balanced team that's keeping the defenses honest. They've been one of the least efficient running teams in football. So, continue to be impressed by Houston. I'm impressed by Baltimore, obviously beating a team like Seattle as decisively as they did. Want to give a shout out to the Gus Bus broke a Ravens franchise record, 6 rushing touchdowns in the last 3 games. So Lamar Jackson certainly deserves a tremendous amount of recognition and is rightfully the MVP favorite, as we did point out. But Gus Edwards is having a great season as well.
All right, let's get into week 9 before Harry starts getting mad at us. Well, let's week 10 actually. TNF Panthers.
Whatever.
Bears. What?
No, I was going to complain about talking about week 10 already. It annoys me.
Oh, well, you're a grumpy cat.
I told you I'm grumpy. I'm grumpy in the middle of the season. I get grumpy.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about Thursday Night Football. Bears at Panthers. Bears minus.
That's going to make me feel better.
3.5. This total 39.5, 40 in some spots. Look, I mean, I'll get into this in the anticipation plays, but I just will say that nighttime unders are now 61 and 29 in the past 2 seasons. This season alone, they're 20 of 26, hitting at 76%. Neither of these offenses are all that exciting to watch. And I think we're getting Justin Fields back, aren't we, Emory? Potentially.
Yeah. I don't know. I know he's returning to practice. I don't know if
day to day, I think, right now.
Right. So because it's a short week, probably wouldn't be wise to throw him out there. Although this would be the perfect get right game, but I doubt you throw him out there on a short week with, I feel like both quarterbacks are turnover prone right now. The young ones that are playing. Bajan had 5 turnovers last week. Yesterday against New Orleans. And to throw, how terrible a pass has to be for a defensive back to take it back the other way. Pick sixes are the result of just horrible placement on the ball, because DBs really can't catch, and they're catching these things and they're going back the other way. So it has to be perfect for them to haul in, which is how bad these throws used to be. Matt Schaub used to have the best pick six passes until Stafford really took that over, right?
I love it.
Certain quarterbacks that could bring it back the other way, but this one screams under because of the young quarterbacks. Granted, Bryce Young won't throw 2 pick sixes again in this game, but because we'll probably see them get conservative now. Oh, he's turning the ball over. We gotta scale back. Watch this game go under.
Yeah.
I mean, the Panthers have scored 10, 17, 27 in a game where the Seahawks put up 37. They had a late touchdown, I believe. 13. And by the way, that's 17. They had that late garbage time touchdown against the Saints, too. 24 at the Lions, another garbage time touchdown, maybe 2 of them in that game. 42-21 loss at the Dolphins. More garbage time crap against the Dolphins. 15 points in a win against the Texans, and then 13 yesterday. So anytime that they've been over 20, it has been pure tea, as they say around these parts, garbage time points. So the biggest concern here, I think, for the over or taking the under would be that, like, and this is where I think you'd be a little careful to wait and see what happens with Justin Fields, because if Fields plays, they could destroy the Panthers, be up like 21, like 24-7, and then you get a backdoor touchdown for the Panthers because the Bears are sort of let up. The Panthers, I'm telling you, I have to talk about this team and watch this team way too much. They're terrible. They're not any fun. They're probably somebody's getting fired in the next couple of weeks if this keeps up, whether it's Scott Fitterer or I don't think it'll be Frank Reich. So it'll probably be Scott Fitterer. He's been around the longest. David Tepper can't help himself. He gets an itchy trigger finger. They should be desperate of a short week. I don't think it'll matter. I agree they'll be conservative. The under's a great look. It's just the backdoor. And if Justin Fields plays, I would be worried about it.
Quickly. And I'm smiling because this was maybe 2 weeks ago. I did the color for Morgan State, Norfolk State, and usually that game was at 2. So I'm putting in sports line picks for FCS games because they release those lines late they release them an hour before the noon kickoff, right? So I'm throwing these in. I look at the over under for Norfolk State, Morgan State. It was at 36.5. And I'm like, I've called 3 Morgan State games this year. I've called 2 Norfolk State games this year. I know both offenses are going to struggle because Morgan's defense is top 5 in the FCS and their offense couldn't score, especially their quarterback it wasn't good at the time. I'm like, this game is going to go under clearly. Shootout breaks out. I'm like, you got to be kidding.
Yeah,
it
happens.
Like over 60. I'm like, unbelievable. So be wary of these teams play each other.
Uh-huh.
Because
That's
in a
true.
low number, they could easily go like the Saints and Bears yesterday. Who saw the Bears scoring 17 points? Not me.
No.
And so
I had Cole Kmet on my fantasy team, and he went off for 20 points yesterday, and he was on my bench. If I would have played my bench, I would have beat my opponent this weekend, but I didn't. That's neither here nor there.
Adam Thielen, 3 receiving touchdowns from Bryce Young. DJ Chark, 2. Tommy Tremble, 2. Kenny Moore, 2. Those are your leaders in the season for Bryce Young. Kenny Moore doesn't play for the Panthers, so that's not great.
Props, you got an input here, right?
I do, yeah. I think this actually sets up nicely for the Bears offense, specifically the run game, specifically Dante Foreman. Also a little revenge game narrative as he goes against the Panthers, who he obviously played for last season. In neutral game environments, Dante Foreman has really been excellent. When the Bears trail, though, they tend to lean more on Drayton Evans and Roshan Johnson. So really Foreman's not on the field when the Bears are playing from behind. And again, against the Panthers in this spot, I really think we could see a large dose of Dante Foreman. Probably get a big discount on his number as well because his production has been inconsistent merely because he's been game scripted out of a lot of games. So he's someone I like quite a bit this week once we see the number, obviously.
Colts Patriots. Colts, it's in Germany. I mean, I don't know that anybody should be setting an alarm to get up for this one.
It's not exactly Miami Dolphins and Chiefs.
Yeah, it's brutal. Although I bet both these teams will outscore the Dolphins considering their output on Sunday in Frankfurt. The Colts now 4-5 on the season. The Patriots 2-7. Bill Belichick was asked on Monday if he thinks he's coaching for his job, which is like, you talk about this this being a simulation or like good luck. Like, go travel back in time to 2019 and tell somebody that's going to happen in 4 years. Like, what the F are you talking about? I don't think we have any specific plays on this. The total's 43 here. I would probably look towards the under, probably like the Patriots too, which hadn't been great this year, right? I mean, they think they're 2-7 against the spread, but Gardner Minshew does like to turn the ball over, and Jim Irsay peacocking a little too much in that post game.
Oh my God, that dancing! You didn't want to party with him. You tell me you don't want to party with that guy.
I can't stand Jim Irsay at this point. Niners at the Jaguars. 49ers -2.5. A total of 44.5. Interesting line here, Katie, for your Niners traveling across the country against a very good Jaguars team coming off the bye. Although I guess you guys coming off the bye as well.
Yeah.
Oh, the line's actually moved to 3, and the total has stayed steady at 44.5.
I think obviously, odds makers are assuming that the last 3 games are not going to carry forward for the 49ers. Obviously, just getting Chase Young to the D-line is exciting and should help a lot of things. Speaking of that D-line, Emory, how do you think that they match up with the Jags O-line?
That's the biggest key in this game, because now you have another hired weapon on a defensive line. You can't just slide protect toward Bosa. Now you have to worry about Chase Young. Now you have to worry about Armstead on the interior, as well as what they also have in Javon Hargrave. It's insane to think about this defensive line of guys that can really get upfield and get to the quarterback, which pairs perfectly with Trevor Lawrence having to be better in the pocket. He gets a little bit careless with the ball. He tends to put it on the ground a lot, more so the interceptions. But if he's able to withstand some of that pressure he's going to see up front, because it's going to be heavy in his ball game, there is some opportunities on the back end waiting for him in terms of the receivers versus the secondary of San Francisco, more so the corners. But I feel like this game will be one, as most games are, that deal with San Francisco up front. I like the Jags defense here. They're athletic. They can fly around to the ball, make plays versus the run game. And they also on offense just don't feel like they're ever out of it. So I would take the Jags plus the points here based off what I think they can do versus pressure. But man, it's going to be have to be a heroic effort for the Jags to do so. And I think Trevor Lawrence can get it done.
Little revenge game for Trent Baalke, by the way. He was with the 49ers.
Oh, that's right. That's true.
Let go in the whole Jim Harbaugh saga.
Good angle. I like that.
Although I know I'm firmly on the 49ers side on this one. I mean, just in my heart, I don't have a play on this. Any props that you're looking at, Propstarz?
Nothing great yet, obviously, but I am interested in the matchup. I thought Emory hit the nail on the head regarding breaking down Jacksonville's offense versus San Francisco's defense. They have been very vulnerable in the back end. We've seen some receivers with a lot of production. So I look at some vertical threats like Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, running snaps out of the slot could potentially feast against this San Francisco secondary that certainly hasn't been as good as they have been in years past.
All right. The Saints at the Vikings. Josh Dobbs, Kevin O'Connell told.
What a story.
I know, it's unbelievable. I mean, just incredible performance. Like, we talked about this on the recap show last night, but like, he didn't know. He was asking guys in the huddle. Like, he'd never taken a snap.
What their names were. Yeah.
From Garrett Bradbury. He's asking, like, he didn't know most people's names. He was asking people in the huddle, like, all right, what is the route on this side of the ball? And Jordan asked him, like, all right, I'm going to run like a hitch here. And like, he's like, it's a 9 route over there. And like it's an end breaker. Like, I'm going to run a post here. And he would just like sort of run with it. And just an embarrassing loss for the Falcons. Now the Vikings get to be a underdog to an NFC South team again, this time with the Saints as a 2.5-point favorite at Minnesota, a total of 41. The Vikings 5-3-1 against the spread. The Saints 2-6-1. The over 2-7 for both teams. That's why you see this low total. Would not be surprised at all if the Vikings are a little more conservative, knowing that like Josh Dobbs will get a full week of practice, try to run the ball. A lot of it, Alexander Madison, maybe some short passes, get the ball to Jordan Addison in short yardage. TJ Hawkinson, questionable here. I kind of like the Vikings a lot here as a dog at home, especially with Brian Flores' defense playing. I know the Falcons scored a bunch of points, but weird game situation. And Brian Flores, you send pressure after Derek Carr. I mean, you could see him easily kind of fold, and the Saints defense playing good football too.
Yeah, that's my stand too. I don't trust the Saints here in this spot. It's unfortunate Cam Akers is out once again with an Achilles injury. That sucks. But I feel like was lost in the Dobbs story was how well Jaron Hall was playing until he went full, Joe Kane on the goal line and got knocked out. So he may even play in this game, and we don't know if Dobbs is going to start. But either way, they both give the Saints defense problems because they're both athletic quarterbacks that get out on the move. But this one to me will be about the Saints offense versus this Vikings pressure. And, Brinson hit it on point. I don't trust Carr. I trust Brian Flores' pressure. The Vikings, on paper, the Saints should beat the Vikings, but the Saints can't run the ball like they normally should. I just think the Vikings can pull this one out. I actually like the over here as well.
Yeah, I think I would lean towards the over too. All right.
Moving on. Titans at Buccaneers. Buccaneers laying 1.5. Virtual pick 'em here. This total, is it still 38.5? Yep, 38.5. Propstarz. You're looking at Will Levis.
Yeah, just Will Levis has made some super impressive throws. I know, obviously, the last drive where he was kind of forcing some passes. But, yeah, just over the course of the game, he's just showing some upside, some passes that Ryan Tannehill incapable of making. So even if Tannehill returns, which there is some speculation he could be back soon, this is definitely going to be the Will Levis show. I think he's going to continue to be impressive. I think he's adding a lot of juice to this offense, helping everyone from Derrick Henry, and then especially, someone like DeAndre Hopkins, who is still playing some outstanding football. So I do believe that Tampa Bay can potentially push the Titans into a high-scoring affair. We saw that again last week with the Houston Texans. So, yeah, I like Will Levis. I like what I've seen. I definitely like what it's done for a guy like DeAndre Hopkins quite a bit.
Yeah, at the very least, like this offense, like if Will Levis is forced, Will Levis is, I can't remember who said this, but I thought it was accurate, and I just don't want to misattribute it, but it's like every single drop back is a roller coaster. Like you don't know what you're going to get from Levis, and I mean that in like a kind of a good fun way. And I think that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's interesting for for the over because I think we could see Tampa Bay be opportunistic enough to if he makes a mistake to turn it over, but he could also, as we saw in that Houston game, like carve him up. And by the way, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, and C.J. Stroud. I know Anthony Richardson out for the year, but he was playing well when he was out there. Not doing Bryce Young any favors, or Frank Reich or Scott Fitterer. So yeah, I would probably lean towards maybe the over here. That's a really low total, and I think we could also see a situation where Emory, maybe after a big week, like 75% unders hit, there's this market overreaction that shrinks it down. Keep an eye on the weather for all these games, of course, but like where we could see some more higher scores, even from like some of these totals where it's like in the high 30s.
Listen, I couldn't wait to talk about this Will Levis thing, because it's fascinating to watch the discourse on social media. You could tell who reads the box scores, and you could tell. And again, you can't have these discussions on Twitter because everyone will they'll strictly go, "Oh, they won." It's funny when QB wins matter, right? But if you look at a lot of these Levis big throws and big plays, they're coming off of busted coverages. And if you go back to the Steelers game, those big throws that accounted for him going, 12 or 15 in the first half, 153 yards, a lot of them happened when they were backed up on their own end. So he threw a big ball to get out of the shadow of their own end zone. But once he got in between the 40 to 40, he couldn't complete a pass. That's why in the second half, up until that last drive, he had 40 yards passing in the entire second half. And he had to have thrown at least 9 interceptions on that last drive before they actually caught one, right? And so if you think about what we saw the Steelers do and what we know of Todd Bowles and his Bucs defense will do, this could be a game that looks a lot like what we saw against Pittsburgh. It's going to be imperative for them to run the ball. Now, the saving grace for Tennessee in this game, they can get the ball from Baker Mayfield too. Yeah. And that's going to be the key. So the under could potentially be in play because of how both quarterbacks are literally the roller coaster. Mm-hmm. But I find that conversation about Levis already putting him up there, because when you think about it, he averaged 6.8 yards an attempt. Is that groundbreaking now? Everybody's now running victory laps because he completed, a couple
mayonnaise in the coffee.
Yeah,
but he does. You can tell he adds some juice to the offense. It's
from Ryan Tannehill.
It's clearly obvious he's better than Tannehill.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying, and should be out there the rest of the way. But I think the victory lapping and the lack of nuance in how he's actually playing, because we can't have these nuanced conversations. Everybody's looking to one up and champion everything that they're doing, but it's like, hey man, I just want to talk football. And the football side of things, saying like, hey, we got to be careful with how we were watching and calling what he's doing out there. The Steelers literally dropped 4 picks, not just on the last drive. I'm talking about throughout the entire game.
Maybe he's got that Brock Purdy magic dropping interception powder. He puts all over the football.
It runs
you guys just can't intercept Brock Purdy. It's unbelievable.
Well, Levis, they finally got an interception on the final drive of the game. Thank God, because I had him for an interception. But guys, we got to take a quick break here. Stick around for our anticipation plays where we try to beat the line movement, coming up next.
The Scudetto, where the soul of Italy meets the pinnacle of calcio. Catch Serie A on CBS Sports Network and streaming live on Paramount+.
It's time again for our segment where we give you a bet that you should lock in early before the line moves to get you some closing line value. CLV, baby. We also do you one better and predict where that line is going to close at. I don't know if mine exactly does today, but let's get it going for our anticipations plays. The anticipation plays segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Do we need to recap last week?
Did we win last week? I'm not understanding.
Well, I don't know if you win. I don't know if you win because it's not exactly like a parlay. But Alex had the Falcons at the -4.5. He thought the line would go up to 6. I don't know what it actually.
It was 3.5.
Oh, 3.5.
I could be mistaken. I thought it.
No. When Jaron Hall was the now starting, it closed at 5.5. I think.
Oh, okay. Lucky me.
You were pretty close. And then I don't know if the Panthers total went up or not. I do know the Ravens total went up 2 whole points. Not quite the full 6 that Emory had, but it went up to 44.5. And then I think the Colts actually closed as 2.5 point favorite. So maybe moved half a point in my favorite. But I mean, nothing. Emory's probably the closest of anybody's. I mean, that thing jumped 2 points the next day.
Yeah, that was a good one.
People watching Pick 6 podcast. That's why.
That's right.
Moving lines out here.
Moving the lines. All right, this week, Alex, who you got?
I'm going to take a shot at Baltimore here, -5.5, playing against the Cleveland Browns. Look, I think Cleveland's performance, while impressive, The defense certainly played well, but that was against Clayton Tune and this Cardinals offense that has obviously created just lacking a lot of talent. So as a result of that, shutout victory, I think Cleveland may get a little more credit than they frankly deserve. Offensively, just wasn't very impressed with the Browns offense. They possessed the football for the entire game, didn't get much going on the ground, and just I'm not really seeing it with Deshaun Watson. So I think if we see the Baltimore team that we saw yesterday against Seattle or we saw against Detroit, they could potentially win by double digits. Wouldn't be surprised if this line ended up closes at 6.5 here. So I think it's a good spot of 5.5.
No, I love that. It's already moved up to 6 in some spots too. I was looking at that today and I was like, ooh, I got to lock in that 5.5. Agree with you there. I'm going to go TNF, Thursday Night Football, Bears, Panthers, taking this under 40. You can find it still 40 at some places. It's already dipped down to 39. We already talked about it. Unders have just been killing it in primetime games. So this could go to 39.5, which it already is. It could go all the way down to possibly 38. So if you can find the 40, I would go ahead and grab that now.
Yeah, I listen, the Ravens are playing a good team. So definitely they're going to bring their A game. They may win by double digits. If they were playing, Cleveland State, then it'd be a toss-up. The Ravens,
Yeah.
You never know what you're gonna get from them when they play someone they're not interested in. But this Broncos line is plus 7.5 against Buffalo. I still feel like people are not giving this Broncos defensive improvement enough credit. So by the end of the week, we may see this line dip to plus 4.5, drop 3 whole points.
I will take the Cardinals. They are plus 1.5 at home against the Falcons. I think that they close as slight favorites because the Falcons are kind of poopy. And Kyler Murray, I expect, will be named the starter by Tuesday. I think this is sort of a hedge line here with the Cardinals. Basically, they're plus 1.5 because they don't want to you can't make the Cardinals plus 3 and then Kyler starts first game of the season. You don't know what you're going to get, but Kyler Murray's going to be motivated to play well, and I don't think he wants anybody to. I don't think he wants him to draft somebody else. I wouldn't think so because then he has to move on. It's embarrassing. But you can't make the Falcons. So you can't make the Falcons like 3-point favorites, but you can't make the Falcons dogs. And then all of a sudden Clayton Tune's starting again, and the Falcons defense gets to go off against Clayton Tune. So I think I'm going to bank on Kyler playing. I'll say this closes Cardinals -1.
Okay, this anticipation play segment has been brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Brinson?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
You're up.
I'm aware. Emory mentioned the Ravens -5.5 hosting the Browns, total 38.5. Unders have been cashing 3-4-1 for the Browns, 3-6 for the Ravens. Both teams positive against the spread, 5-3 for the Browns and 6-3 for the Ravens, almost identical to their straight up numbers. You can see it's moved to 6 already, and a little bit of juice on the over here. As I mentioned, Baltimore's been stomping good teams, beat the Browns by 24, beat the crap out of the Seahawks and the Lions as well, and now get the Browns again. I would think that a second divisional game of the year with two really good defenses, under is probably the look, but it's a very low total. So I would lean towards the under, but I don't think it's going to come down a ton. And then, like Watson being back, if Watson was somehow out again, this line would shoot up to like 7.5 or 8. So I would definitely want to be on the Ravens now rather than later.
Yeah, I'm going to lay these points with the Ravens because what they're going to do is force Deshaun Watson to prove that his arm is 100%. They're going to make him make tight window throws, which require a ton of velocity. And the Ravens are a very good open field tackling team. There's no Nick Chubb to worry about in this matchup. Yeah. So you'll see them play the run on the way to the quarterback. This one will look a lot like the first matchup, in my opinion. I think this is going to be a big win again for Baltimore. But who is Keaton Mitchell, man? Earlier before we started this podcast, I had to go back in the crates a little bit and be a little bit petty because, I put out my top 5 running back list back in April 20th on CBS Sports HQ, and folks was lambasting me for having Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan Robinson. I had Deuce Vaughn in there at number 3, Tajay Spears at 4, and Mr. Keaton Mitchell at number 5. And all I heard was the fact that he's 179 pounds. He's going to die in the NFL. You have to be 200. Jahmyr Gibbs is 199. You have to be 200 to be successful. And all we're seeing now is these breakout games from these little bite-sized running backs. How fascinating is that? We saw this man have 9 carries for 150-something yards, averaging 13 yards a carry. He's the most explosive back on the roster. And I've always said this, when you have an explosive back paired with a mobile quarterback, those type of games that you see, that you saw yesterday from Keaton Mitchell are more likely to continue to happen because the speed and quickness is what's important. Yes, Gus Bus is good. That's why he has so many big plays. And I always use this analogy and reference. CJ2K was CJ2K with Vince Young. He was CJ 1300 with everybody else. Keep playing Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah.
I'm off my soapbox.
Shout out East Carolina, baby.
I've been impressed with the Ravens. No J.K. Dobbins, no problem. Gus Bus, Keaton Mitchell. I do want to say that I remember like 7-8 weeks ago, I want to say week 2 or week 3, Emory, you said keep an eye, and this is when Keaton was obviously on injured reserve still. You told everyone to keep an eye on Keaton Mitchell. So, yeah, impressive call. Certainly looked great. Add another dimension of speed to that Ravens backfield that they've been missing. So, good call, Emory.
And he has a better number than Justice Hill. Justice Hill's out there with 43. He's out there with 34. I'm not giving the ball to 43.
Also, the Ravens, I believe, have the Bengals in the following week. So 2 big divisional games for them. Moving on, the Texans at the Bengals. Bengals laying 7.5 over a touchdown. This total 46.5. Obviously, huge game for CJ Stroud. But this Bengals pass rush, I mean, they gave fits to Josh Allen last night. I don't know that CJ Stroud has quite as successful of a game against this Bengals team. Probably not. Yeah. I mean, I will say, by the way, just a side note, did anybody notice how white Joe Burrow's teeth were last night in that post game? I was like, I'm wondering if he got veneers or something, because his teeth did not look like that a year ago. I'm going to have to find some side-by-side comparison, but Joe Burrow's teeth are looking bigger and whiter. But that's neither here nor there. Give us a scouting report on this game.
No, that's peak scout report right there. That's elite level scouting. That's what you look for, Katie. But it's hard to overlook when folks have veneers like that because you just keep staring at their mouth. And so
I've never seen teeth that white. I mean, they were like a piece of paper.
You might be absolutely right. He did have an extended time on the bye week, but I will say the over is definitely in play. Because of how Houston plays, whether they're going to be down and having to throw their way in to make it a game, or will we see a back and forth? I think this one has the markings of a back and forth game. Houston now has confidence. They came down like numerous times against Tampa. I think they do so here. So I like the over more than anything in this ball game.
I think both these quarterbacks are just playing so well right now. CJ Stroud, just so impressive. Talked about him earlier. But, just doing it with, kind of unheralded wide receiver group. We're talking about Noah Brown. We're talking about the rookie Tank Dell and Nico Collins. None of these guys even were sniffed 1,000-yard season prior to this year. And now all 3 are just absolutely balling out. Robert Woods with the injury. Brown just steps in and just immediately just popping off with triple digits all the time. So, just been very impressed with Houston. And then Joe Burrow looks to be Joe Burrow again. Nice to see T. Higgins back at 100% as well. He obviously adds a huge dimension to that offense because Jamar Chase is double teamed more than any wide receiver in the NFL. So when you have someone like T. Higgins opposite of him, who's playing at a high level, able to get loose down the field, obviously gives them another number 1 wide receiver in that offense. So both these guys is playing at a high level. Can't wait for this matchup.
How about the kicker? Wasn't there like a running back that kicked a
Agumbawale.
Agumbawale.
Yeah, he did
Agumbawale, I think.
Now, here's the crazy part. You have a special teamer that also kicks like that. You just made it an 11-on-11 return because usually you don't count the kicker, but now you can kick the ball deep and you go down there and make a tackle. Like you have an advantage as a kickoff specialist.
By the way, interesting to know, I talked about really briefly in the recap last night, but the Texans, when they scored the final touchdown, they went up 2, right? Mm-hmm. And they had Dare there who could have kicked the extra point, to make it a 3-point game, but there were 6 seconds left. It wasn't worth the risk to kick the extra point. You have a mistake. You got a running back kicking the extra point. Goes back the other way, and they exactly. They take it back the other way and tie it up. You're not going to get a field goal attempt against you with 6 seconds on the clock. Like, you're going to get the kickoff, the pitchy woo-woo, shout out Scott Van Pelt, and then maybe one play at absolute most, like one of those things. You're definitely not getting a field goal attempt against you unless something really weird happens. So smart coaching to take the knee on the 2-point conversion play, but it was a 3-point spread in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about a dagger. And on like in our CBS Pick'em League, this was happening on like the group chat, but so like the Pick'em League locks it on Tuesday, right? And you just make the picks because you can't have the spreads fluctuating based on when people make them. Everybody makes them. We pick every game against the spread. There are no pushes, so it either goes one way or the other. It was Houston minus 2.5, and so like the people who were like why is it like losing their minds? You can just tell like who's on what side of the game, because it's like, why aren't you kicking it? Like I've got Houston. I'm like, I think it's a really smart thing to take a knee. Or I got Tampa. I'm like, I think it's a smart thing to take a knee there. You can always tell who's got what side of what in those spots. Packers at the Steelers. Steelers minus 3.5, a total of 37.5. The Steelers are the biggest under team to on the season, I believe. 1-7 to the over, but somehow 5-3 against the spread and 5-3 straight up. I don't honestly. I don't know how the F they're 5-3 straight up. It's the biggest thing of magic beans I've ever seen in my entire life. This line is already down to 3. I didn't see what there was. The total still at 37.5. I look Pittsburgh weather. Yeah, 37.5, a little juicy over. Pittsburgh weather doesn't look bad. It would be cold, but nothing that's going to scare the Packers. I mean, I still think I wouldn't touch the over here. I can't see Pittsburgh putting up many points. I kind of like the Steelers a little bit at 3, but if it's going to keep drifting the other way, then I'd rather wait a little bit on it. This is just a pretty gross game, honestly. Very gross.
I think Jordan Love could have success over the middle of the field, like with the tight ends and the little stop routes, because they're gonna. I think that's where you attack Pittsburgh. You're not gonna be able to attack them on the perimeter because you have to throw into the pressure, but you have to attack them over the middle of the field, and they have. We saw now their tight ends, Musgrave, started getting involved in the offense. They can run the ball a little bit when they decide to run the ball, and I just can't trust Kenny Pickett. It's fascinating that they are winning these ball games with how ineffective Pickett is at quarterback. It's the biggest open secret in the NFL right now. Like, they need some help back there.
Hey, how about like they moved Matt Canada down to the sidelines to get rid of like my favorite coaching booth shot where he's like, what happened?
What? They need to move Steve Wilkes down next for the 49ers.
He not good. Props, do you have something there?
Real quick, I did want to point out, though, as far as Aaron Jones is concerned, Matt LaFleur talked about turning him loose, and he did give him a large workload, and he did start to resemble the Aaron Jones we all know and love. So I think the hamstring injury might finally be in the mirror, in the back mirror, and yeah, it looks like he's fully healthy finally. Shout
out to me for claiming Aaron Jones off waivers for my dad's fantasy team while my parents were out of town. I said, I'm going to drink all your wine, but I will manage your fantasy teams while you're gone.
That's a good trade-off.
That's right. Okay, let's take a break. And when we come back, some scorchers, including Kyler Murray's possible debut, a Giants team that is a 425-point underdog to the Dallas Cowboys. We'll tell you all about it next.
Friday, honor those who have served.
On a special night at the Naval Academy.
With some hoops for the heroes. Don't miss the Veterans Classic on CBS Sports Network.
All right. Welcome back. Falcons at Cardinals. Falcons minus 1.5 currently. I mentioned it during the anticipation plays, but I kind of like the Cardinals catching that 1.5, or at least like the line to move. Cardinals, of course, 1-8 on the money line, 4-1 against the spread. Cardinals games have actually been going over. This total's 41.5. Taylor Heineke will start again for the Falcons in this one. But more importantly, Arthur Smith shaved his mustache.
I can't believe you did that.
And, well, I can because they stink.
Oh, was it just for Movember? No, we're in Movember right now.
Only Arthur Smith. He shaved it during Movember. That's right. He grew a mustache for the season and shaved it during Movember. He probably did it because he's like, God dang it, everybody's going to think I did this for November, but I'm not.
But he had it in October.
Right. I mean, my theory is that he did it because the Falcons are now 4-5, having lost to Josh Dobbs and Will Levis. Is that right? Will Levis in back-to-back weeks?
Yeah. Harry,
That's
can we
probably why.
get a picture of Arthur Smith without the mustache? I'd just like to see it. You can keep talking, but just if
I was like, does Harry have one ready? I was
no,
like,
probably not. I just if we can, great. If we can't, we can't. He's on it. Harry's on it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's concerning, Alex. Bijan Robinson didn't get a carry after he fumbled late in that game. Arthur Smith, there's got to be something going on behind the scenes, off the field. Like, remember like the Trace Sermon, Brandon Ayuk, doghouse type of thing with the 49ers? It feels like it's got to be something like that. Like Bijan's maybe complained to the coaches about his role or something. Or, I mean, they'll probably chalk it up to pass pro. I don't know. They are not using this rookie running back. I would say that he is by far, frankly, the most disappointing fantasy player on the season. And you can't figure out, heads or tails what Arthur Smith is going to do with him. But right now, I don't see how you can trust him. I don't see how you can trust playing him.
It's inexplicable, Brinson. Yeah, it's puzzling. It's frustrating. Try to come up with a different explanation every week, whether it's rogue migraines on Sunday morning or just, who knows at this point what's going on. But yeah, it's not turning around and it's not changing that much. I think it's fair to assume at this point, just Bijan's usage just continues to be super, super erratic. When he is on the field, he obviously looks very good at times, but just not getting the consistent touches, not knowing when he's going to get touches, not getting the high leverage touches either, just completely sapping his value. I thought he was legitimately in play to lead the NFL in rushing this season. Partly being on an offense that was obviously, excellent at running the football last season. There he is without the mustache there. But Arthur Smith right now, and for my money, is the least likely coach or probably the most likely coach to lose his job if the Falcons continue to sputter here.
I don't like
that's interesting. I think that Arthur Blank tries to be more patient and generally gives like that extra year. I think it's kind of unlikely. I think they're sort of in on Arthur Smith. And now don't get me wrong.
They don't like no mustache though. You got to factor.
I said that the Raiders were not going to fire Josh McDaniels, and who the hell knows? I mean, the owners get fickle quickly, and 4-5 is not where the Falcons should be at all. I mean, 11 carries, 51 yards for Bijan Robinson. He's averaging 4.6 yards per carry. I mean, Jonnu Smith is the most involved. Like, Bijan Robinson gets 11 carries, and Jonnu Smith and Kadero Hodge get 12 targets. Like, what is this offense? And I know Jonnu had that long screen pass late in the game, but it's like, dude, you have Kyle Pitts and Bijan, and Drake London was missing in this game. But it's like, what is this? This is like when you're like, I'm bored of playing Madden at this, I just, it's too easy. I'm going to try and get the worst possible team. I'm going to bench my stars and play with scrubs and see if I can still beat the computer.
Not only do they have
spoiler, you can't.
Not only do they have elite talent at the position, but they've invested 3 top 15 picks in consecutive years in these guys, and just not utilizing them whatsoever, to me, is just unforgivable.
Quickly, what makes me work with the Arthur Smith thing, this is not, Arthur Smith and his job and, Falcons and whatnot. This is why you have me on to go deeper on the scouting, right?
Yeah.
This is Home Depot versus FedEx. Right?
Oh, spicy.
You know what I'm saying? How big is that sweetheart deal FedEx probably has, have given the Falcons, and you can't fire my son, Mr. FedEx Jr.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like this, how will Home Depot so this may be bigger than football, guys.
You want to go ship your stuff to the post office, Home Depot?
Okay, moving on. Lions at Chargers. This game, virtual pick'em, Lions -1.5. I don't know why this line is so small here. This total 48.5. Chargers play tonight against the Jets. So depending on how that game goes, we may see some line movement here. But Emory, what are you looking for in this matchup?
This game will look a lot like the Dolphins-Chargers game in terms of how much we'll see the run game for the Chargers, and also how I think the Lions are going to try to run the ball too. I've always said this ad nauseum. It doesn't make sense why the Chargers defense doesn't live up to what they look like on paper because they are talented on paper. But I feel like the Lions will come in and try to bully their way against the Chargers. So -1.5 is a good look. I think the under is more in play than the over. I think we tend to get infatuated with the Chargers on paper offensively and think like these games will go back and forth. Now, this may be a game where it'll be 24-14 or something silly like that, as opposed to, a 30-27 type ball game, in my opinion.
Yeah, Chargers are an under team this year and really more conservative than you would think, and certainly prone to like either kicking a field goal when you shouldn't or going for it when you shouldn't and making a red zone mistake. And I think I like Detroit a lot in this spot. If would not be surprised either. Chargers playing the Jets. Jets a good defense. Chargers on the road on Monday Night Football. Jets win the game outright, and somebody important for the Chargers gets hurt, and this line gets to 2.5 or 2.5. So I would take the Lions now if you're looking to get something in on that game. Prop, did you have something there?
I like the Lions quite a bit as well, Brinson. I definitely completely agree with your assessment regarding jumping on them sooner rather than later based on what happens tonight. I do want to say I think the under is also in play, as Emory mentioned. This Chargers run defense has actually been fairly solid over the last 5 weeks, so definitely have to give some credit there. One thing I am interested to see is Lions coming out of the bye, likely with a healthy David Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs looked absolutely fantastic and dynamic in his absence. How are those backfield touches allocated? Because Jahmyr Gibbs needs to have a significant role on this offense for them to reach their potential.
It's a good point because he played really well. Will they revert back to having David Montgomery as like the feature, pound the back, and then they've been really weird about that usage. All right, Giants and Cowboys. Cowboys -15.5. Daniel Jones out for the year with the torn ACL. Like, this line ain't going to go crazy in any one direction. If anything, it goes towards the Cowboys. But like you see the juice there. I don't know how much further it can go to the Cowboys. The implied total here is, I think it's like 26-11 or something like that. Something terrible. So let's just mosey on past this one. And Katie, you can talk about a better game featuring two NFC teams.
Yes, the Commanders at the Seahawks. Seahawks laying just under a touchdown, 6.5. This total 44.5. A big bounce back game, I guess, for both of these teams. The Commanders' offense didn't look as good as I thought they were going to in my fantasy picks yesterday. Seahawks, of course, coming off a game where they only scored a field goal. Emory, what do you think about this one?
Well, the Giants won't score in that game, so that's a tricky game to play. I don't think the Giants will score against Cowboys. Commanders, I thought
you mean any points at all?
Any points. They struggled against the Raiders. They will not score against the Cowboys. But this game, I thought the Seahawks was going to show up. I was wrong in terms of how they're off.
Everybody did. Yeah.
I hate to pinpoint one play, but this play happened early in the game. In fact, it happened on the first drive. I thought their mindset changed when Jackson Smith and Jigba dropped that third down. As they were going out of bounds, he kind of bobbled it, and that kind of threw off their offense because they was having some success. It was second and short, third and short. They throw the ball, he drops it, and next thing you know, they're all out of whack. They stop blocking, they can't block. Geno holding the ball, and it just went haywire. So this game could get out of control too. But I will stay away from this one because I can't trust which Seahawks team is going to show up.
Yeah,
I think the Seahawks are a decent look as a kind of buy low here, mainly because I think we saw with the Lions. The Lions went to Baltimore and got crushed. It was like, oh, maybe the Lions are maybe we got over our skis on the Lions. And I think the same thing happened with the Seahawks. And I think the Ravens was a really, really, really good defense and just a really, really good football team. And I think we see the Seahawks bounce back. This could end up being a total shootout, by the way, where it's like that the goofy Sam Howell, Geno Smith chuck it around, just like a ton of yards and like a ton of weird scores. Wouldn't be surprised if the game
turnovers.
Yeah, over the total. By the way, the Cowboys, I just looked. Our Sportsline projections have the Cowboys defense for Week 10 currently projected for 20.8 points. That is unheard of for a 20-point projection from a defense like a week in advance. That's wild. Tommy DeVito, ladies and gentlemen.
That game in Dallas?
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, I don't think anyone's showing up to MetLife to watch that game.
Speaking of MetLife, the Jets are playing there tonight, and they will also play against they play in Las Vegas against the Raiders, and the Jets are a 2.5-point favorite with a total of 37. The look at it was Jets -1.5. You see the Raiders getting a touch of juice, and the under 37 getting plenty of juice as well. I mean, I love the Raiders in this spot. I'm kind of surprised that they're not favored. Now, if the Jets, I think you want to wait on it. I think if the Jets win against the Chargers on Monday night, then I think they will. Then you could see the Jets being like 3.5-point favorites. This is a much different defense than the Raiders played last week. On Sunday against the Giants, and you do have that initial dead cat bounce. The Raiders are celebrating all of that, and this is a much tougher test. But I still think at home, Sunday Night Football, I think we see the Raiders come to play and remain motivated, and that defense flies around, turns over Zach Wilson, especially Jets on a short week. You're traveling out to Vegas. Like, you're playing Sunday night in Las Vegas. So what's your, what's your approach to Saturday? Like, you're not playing a late 20 on Sunday night. Maybe have a little fun on Saturday in Vegas.
Well, for me, it's like if Zach Wilson and the Jets win, it depends on how Zach Wilson plays tonight. This line could probably jump to 4.5 because this Raiders defense this Jets defense knows it just really has to stop
Josh Jacobs.
And so Aiden O'Connell is a rookie. I know that Jets defense will throw a lot at Aiden O'Connell. He's really a go ball guy. Like, he wants to work touchdown to check down, and you need time to get that ball deeper down the field. He won't have time against this Jets defense. They'll force you to hit the layups consistently down the field. Can he do that? But this game is fascinating based on how well Zach Wilson does tonight against the Chargers. Because if I like it at 2.5, if it jumps higher based off how well he plays, you would have missed out on a good value here on this line.
Did you say take the Jets now?
Take the Jets now.
Yeah. Anything for you, Prop?
Nothing for me on this game, guys. A lot of Breece Hall.
All right. Well, that is going to do it. What?
A lot of Breece Hall.
A lot of Breece Hall. Yeah. That is
I'm sorry. And don't worry about the Jets jumping in, doing anything nefarious out there in Vegas. They are here in New York, man. Like, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. You know what I'm saying?
They're in New Jersey, but
I live in New York, and when I go to Vegas, it's a little different. Anyways, that is the end of our show. On that note, make sure you join us all week long for more NFL coverage. Tomorrow, Brinson, Breach, and Wilson are joined by Pete Prisco to break down his weekly power rankings on CBSSports.com. One last reminder to show us some love with a like, comment, and hit subscribe on our YouTube page. For everyone listening to the audio-only version, make sure that you download, follow, leave a 5-star review, and tell your friends to listen and watch the pod. We will see you Thursday for another pick show, but Brinson tomorrow.